There may be situations you run into in your edits where you're going to be working with different raster dimensions in one timeline. What that means for you is that you might have some footage that will play back in full frame and other clips that are going to play back letterboxed or matted with black bars at the top and bottom. In many cases, you're going to want to have all of your footage match so that it's one consistent look the entire way through your edit. If you decide that you'd like to add letterboxing to the shots that don't have it, it's very straightforward to do in Media Composer. We have a category for it, and it's called the Film category. What I'm going to do is press Command and 8 on the Mac, Control and 8 on Windows. You'll see that I am in the Film category right now, and you'll see that I have access to standard size masks, including 166, 185, and 16 by 9. So, depending on the shot that comes before or after this shot, you'll want to choose the mask that's right for the situation. In this case, I'm just going to choose a 16 by 9 mask, and I'm going to drag it and drop it down onto my shot. You'll see now I can simply hit the space bar, and the shot is now matted and ready to go. Now, of course, what you're going to need to take into consideration is the fact that once you add the mask, you might have some parts of the shot that you're going to want to see that are now covered over. So how do you get around that? Well, the easiest way to get around that is by adding an effect underneath the mask effect that you can manipulate to frame your footage exactly the way that you want to. For example, let's say that I wanted our BMX bike rider here to be a little bit lower in the frame. What I'm going to do is to double click on this shot. Now the reason I'm going to double click on it is because it is the equivalent to stepping into it, but it lets me stay in timeline view. You'll see if I double click on it, I can now see the shot that is contained within this effect. What I'm going to do now is inside of the effects palette, I'm going to navigate up to the blend category. I'm going to take a 3D warp effect and I'm going to drag it and drop it down onto my shot. Once it's there, I'm going to step into effects mode, and inside of effects mode, I'm going to make sure that not the layer that has the mask is selected, but the 3D warp layer. Now what I have the ability to do is to reframe this shot, in this case sliding our BMX rider down a little bit, and what I have the flexibility of seeing is the edge of the frame, so that I know exactly how far down I can drag this frame before it becomes visible outside of the masking. So I can bring the shot down to here, let go, and it's now been reframed inside of the letterbox, so I can now see the exact part of the frame that I need to see. Now, one last thing that I do want to mention, and I'm just going to double click on my layer to collapse it back down again. I'm just going to close the effects editor here again. One thing that you might want to do is to have the ability to create a custom mask. Now, most people think that you would do that inside of the 3D warp tool. I prefer not to do it that way. I'm just going to remove this effect by pressing the remove effect command at the top of the timeline, and once it's removed, I'm going to navigate back to the film category, and I'm going to come down to just the standard mask tool. To add this effect on top of the 3D warp effect, I'm going to hold Option on the Mac, Alt on Windows, and now what I have the ability to do is to step into effects mode, and I can simply turn off the fixed aspect and adjust the height of my mask, and it will do it proportionately at the top and bottom to create whatever custom mask I might need for my edit.